Tinker, Tailor, Smethwick, Sloane. Chapter 1. The Whittling of the Owl. The train that is now pulling into Piccadilly Tube Station is exactly 2¼ minutes late, although the London Transport Authorities have no earthly means of knowing this. Furthermore, only the most astute observer pays anything more than passing attention to an anonymous, somewhat plump and slightly awkward figure slowly making his way off the train, failing to keep up with the throngs. Closer inspection discovers the figure to be one Mr. George Chuckley, erstwhile acting head of what is blushing referred to as the British Secret Service, or, as it is known to its inner acolytes, simply as the circus. If one follows the figure, one sees him slowly waddle out of the station and along the street to a rather dingy building hidden in the maze of smaller streets that surround central London. Chuckley climbs the small flight of steps into the building, flashing his pass to the uniformed security guard, altogether too elderly for the role, who instantly recognizes him. "Nice to see you again, sir." "You too, Billings," replies Chuckley, with a brief nod of recognition, and proceeds down the corridor. In his younger years, Chuckley may have favored the stairs over the lift in his youth, but now his age dictates his mode of transport. After the customary wait, the doors of the lift eventually slide apart grudgingly, and Chuckley continues his journey to the hallowed 5th floor. Chuckley enters the meeting room, and registers that he is the last to arrive. All the other seats are taken, with the familiar faces around the table, sitting back, mostly ties undone, and cigarettes dangling from mouths or hands. The odd cup of tea or perhaps something even stronger carelessly scattered across the table, engaging in small talk. Chuckley makes his way to the last remaining seat at the head of the table, respectfully reserved for him. Removing his scarf, Chuckley inspects his congregation, as if he has been appointed, albeit temporarily, to the high priesthood of a clandestine church. "Well, as we all seem to be here, shall we begin?" A murmur of approval circles the table. Chuckley clears his throat. "Shall I get the ball rolling?" "No objections." As you are all probably aware by now, the mole code-named Gerald has been caught and is being held at a secure location until the inspectors arrive. "Do you mean the inspectors from Sarrett, George?" Toby Manor House, chief whip of the Brixton Lamplighters, interrupts. "Actually, no, Toby, Gerald is just being held until the SPCO inspectors arrive. He is being kept warm, watered and fed. In other words, he is being well looked after." Chuckley enunciates each word individually, slowly and carefully, to emphasize the point. Chuckley removes his spectacles and polishes them with the fat end of his tie, before replacing them, but this only has the effect of making him look more owlish than ever. "When we have finished plugging the holes that the mole left," continues Chuckley, referring to the holes in the lawn in the central quadrangle of the circus head office, "you will all need to review your positions. Those of you who wish to stay on will have your cases considered." Chuckley pauses to look at the faces around the table, to gauge reaction. But now on to other matters, perhaps even more serious. Some of you may have heard rumors of an embassy game. On the mention of these words, several wide-eyed faces look up to regard Chuckley, accompanied by a chorus of stifled gasps from around the table. The embassy game is reputed to be a new variation of Acton Town, fiendishly difficult, and games were only entered into by strict invitation. A game which is being held within this city sometime in the not-too-distant future. I am currently not at liberty to give precise details yet. What I can tell you, however, is that I will be attending. Chuckley taps his chest with his fingers to indicate himself, and we have it on the highest of authorities that, amongst certain other well-known of our trade competitors, or whatever you like to call them, Carre himself will also be taking part. This last piece of information invokes a frenzy of chatter amongst Chuckley's congregation. Actually, it's no coincidence that Carre is taking part. Certain arrangements were made by certain friends of ours, after certain favors were called in, to expedite his appearance. Toby again. By God, George, that's brilliant. Thank you, Toby. I believe that if all goes to plan we can turn the tables on Moscow Center and regain the upper hand after our recent setbacks. With this, Chuckley leans back in his chair and closes his eyes, finally feeling vindicated. Or, in the parlance of his old public school, his owl is well and truly whittled.